Hello and welcome to the Poetry Pea. I'm Patricia, your host for today's pod, A Feast of Urbanity. What am I on about? Well, let me tell you. Recently, I put out a call for poets to tell me what they wanted to learn and think about in 2026. Many of you got back to me, thank you, and I will work through the subjects over the coming weeks. And it's not too late, you can always whiz me over an email and let me know if there's something you really want me to think about and work with me on, perhaps. Anyway, the first one I want to think about is urban haiku, because it struck me that this topic had much to do with differentiating haiku and senryū. And as you know, I spent a wee while thinking about that at the back of last year. So thank you to Andrea Cisco for nudging me towards this topic. Where to begin, though? Well, perhaps I should define what I think urban haiku are. And Andrea, if I'm not going in the direction you wanted me to go, do get back to me and I'll take another run at it. Anyway, what are urban haiku? I think that I would define these haiku as haiku written in and about the environment of a city and its suburbs. And this concept of urban haiku is quite important because increasingly more and more of us are living in urban areas. And I wonder if we'll see the emphasis of haiku changing. In 2018, the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs wrote a report which said that at the time, 55% of the world's population lived in urban areas, a proportion expected to increase to 68% by 2050. Now, so you can understand where I'm coming from, I should tell you where I stand on the principles of haiku. And it's a good time to do this, as there is a call-out between the 1st and the 15th of February 2026. Have you checked your submissions calendar? Or our submissions calendar, I should say. Anyway, this definition of my principles is really for you, my first-time listener, because your soon-to-be haiku friends already know where I stand. My feet are firmly planted in the if it ain't got a seasonal theme, it ain't a haiku school of thought. Why seasonal theme and not seasonal word? Well, that's a whole other story, but in essence, the seasonal theme you include in your haiku should mean something. It's not enough just to stick the words summer, winter, autumn, or spring in there and say, well, I've written a haiku. No. Your seasonal word or theme needs to bring something to the party. It needs to add resonance to your poem to make your poem unique. But, and this is the difficult bit, at the same time, it's got to make your reader feel something familiar, yet often involving a light bulb moment. You know, that aha moment it's often called. The seeing something familiar in a new light. As Higginson might say, your seasonal theme triggers an aesthetic experience. In researching for this podcast, I read a lot of poetry and a couple of things occurred to me. There's not so many haiku clearly written about or in cities. Although, of those that are, skyscrapers feature rather often. And that poems purporting to be haiku about cities are more often than not senryū, or short poems. I can feel you itching to get onto your keyboards and send me an email to tell me that it's very difficult to write poems with a seasonal theme in the city. Cities, of course, are not always known for their abundance of nature, and therefore seasonal changes. So let me save you a job and give you my response now. And of course, if you don't agree with me, please hit those keys and start a discussion. So seasons in cities. Let's think about what a season is. For me, it's a change in something, usually defined in weather terms, but it's more than that, isn't it? I think Zoka might help us here. Zoka, of course, was brought to our attention by Janice Doppler in a few podcasts, and of course the book she edited, One Thread. I wrote a little bit about Zoka in the book, which I would definitely recommend, and not just because I'm in it. There's loads of poets writing in it. It's one of the most interesting books in the haiku genre published in 2024. Anyway, you know where the links will be. I wrote of the seasons that they are a manifestation of nature's tendency and ability to transform, emerge, grow, die, and re-emerge. And that used effectively, they show how we relate to nature's changes. As haiku writers, we need to be at one with nature. Seeing, feeling those transformations of season help us do that. What was it that Basho was supposed to have said? Go to the pine if you want to learn about the pine, or to the bamboo if you want to learn about the bamboo. And in doing so, you must leave your subjective preoccupation with yourself. Otherwise, you impose yourself on the object and do not learn. Okay, let's summarize what we have so far. Urban haiku are written about the city and its environments, and I believe we can write haiku of the seasonal school when writing short-form poetry about cities. Now, as I said to you earlier, many poems labelled as haiku and written about city experiences that I read for this podcast were Senryū or short poems. And I've spent a lot of time trying to define Senryū over the last wee while. But to make it simple, let me stick with this definition by Klaus-Dieter Wirth. So we're all on the same page. And of course, if you want a different page, that's fine. Maybe write to me with your definition. Anyway, this is what he says. That the writer of a Senryū is a commentator, an outside is an outside critic. That they give us their interpretations, they share their knowledge with us, they show and instruct, they question and expose things. They can definitely be irreverent in approach, possibly even vulgar. They analyze things from a distance, and they tend towards aphorisms. And to make it extra complicated, Senryū don't need seasonal themes or words, but sometimes they do include them. So on occasion, it's difficult to separate the forms. Perhaps that's why many poets and editors don't. Returning to the idea that cities are often not blessed with an abundance of nature, and therefore we might not see or feel the transformations as much, then is that why so many city poems are written as Senryū? What do you think? Now, don't dash off into the wilds of the internet yet to do your research. I've got a quick bit of housekeeping. After the podcast, make yourself a brew, pop over to our YouTube channel to catch the latest video prompt. It's a monster. Don't forget, you can only add your poems in the comments section. Please don't send them to me. And speaking of brews, if you'd like to support the podcast, you can become a member, or buy us a coffee, or simply shout about our existence on your socials. Nothing says love like a well-timed tweet, eh? And a gentle reminder that our haiku and Senryū submission period opens in February. You might fancy having a go at something urban, bus stops, back alleys, fluorescent lights. But there's no pressure. It's an open theme. Write what you like. Just take part. We don't bite. But if you would like to take a run at urban haiku, I've found some poetry that might inspire you. Shall we have a listen? Harvest moon, a beggar and the hope in his dog's eyes. Harvest moon, a beggar and the hope in his dog's eyes. M. Shane Pruitt, Haiku Pea Podcast, Series 3, Episode 22. Snow falling on the empty parking lot, Christmas Eve. Snow falling on the empty parking lot, Christmas Eve. Eric W. Amann. And I found that in Higginson and Harter's book, The Haiku Handbook. A stroll on Fifth Avenue, catching snowflakes on my tongue. A stroll on Fifth Avenue, catching snowflakes on my tongue. By Barbara Tate, from the Haiku Foundation's City Sidewalk Taste Edition. And coincidentally, as I was recording this, I suspect my youngest son might be doing just that. Foggy night. Sparks from a tossed cigarette scatter on the freeway. Foggy night. Sparks from a tossed cigarette scatter on the freeway. Michael Dylan Welsh. From his Grayscutts site. Retro coffee shop. On the amber glass of water, summer's slanting rays. Retro coffee shop. On the amber glass of water, summer's slanting rays. Mizuo. From Urban Ginkgo 5. Sweltering afternoon. The couple stoop to eye the street-side menu. Sweltering afternoon. The couple stoop to eye the street-side menu. Aki Haiku. Also from Urban Ginkgo 5. Which was a haiku composition stroll organised by the Hail Haiku Group, taking place on Sunday the 2nd of July 2023 in Osaka. There's a link to the webpage in the show notes, so you can take a stroll with them too. A wailing siren scales up sheer skyscraper walls in blinding sun. A wailing siren scales up sheer skyscraper walls in blinding sun. By Richard Wright, from his book Haiku, This Other World. I couldn't not put a skyscraper haiku in, could I? So next up, some urban Senryū. And I'll just remind you again of the definition that I'm using. The person who writes Senryū is a commentator, an outside critic, gives us their interpretations, shares their knowledge with us, shows, instructs, questions, and exposes things. They can be irreverent in approach, maybe even vulgar. They analyze from a distance, and they possibly tend towards aphorisms. But what I perhaps should mention is that they are still showing, they're not telling. Anyway, onwards to the poetry. You may or may not agree with the way I've defined them. Let's see. War Museum. Pin drop silence in the gun room. War Museum. Pin drop silence in the gun room. Lakshmi Iyer, from our very own Poetry Pea Journal 3/22. City sidewalk. Imagining silence in a wall of noise. City sidewalk. Imagining silence in a wall of noise. Bob Whitmire. The Haiku Foundation's City Sidewalk Hearing Edition. On the sidewalk, so many languages I don't understand. On the sidewalk, so many languages I don't understand. Laurie Jaskowski, again from the Haiku Foundation's City Sidewalk. Park bench. The homeless man scrubs birdshit from a once familiar name. Park bench. The homeless man scrubs birdshit from a once familiar name. Tracy Davidson, Poetry Pea Journal 223. Feeding the homeless cat lady. Feeding the homeless cat lady. Wendy Coburn, Prune Juice, issue 46. Park path. The inconvenience of other people. Park path. The inconvenience of other people. Brian Rickett, Failed Haiku, issue 111, and I believe their final issue, sadly. Waiting for the music of the pennies, blind beggar. Waiting for the music of the pennies, blind beggar. Arvinder Kaur, Poetry Pea Journal, Summer 2021. An apothecary of green, neighbourhood park. An apothecary of green, neighbourhood park. Rupa Anand, also from Failed Haiku, issue 111. And I think this one, depending on what school of thought you're in, is on the borders of haiku and senryū. But if pushed, and knowing as you do what my thoughts are, I think it goes into the senryū category. I think it sums up what those urban spaces mean to those of us who live in the city. Well, thank you ever so much for keeping me company today. Delving into urban haiku and reading these poems aloud has been an absolute pleasure. Rather like finding a quiet moment on a noisy platform. Just as Sean O'Connor wrote in his book, Even the Mountains, 5 years in a Japanese village. He wrote, busy platform, between passing trains, the sound of crickets. Busy platform, between passing trains, the sound of crickets. Perhaps those of you living in the city or its suburbs can slow down a bit, maybe even go on a little ginkgo yourself and find some haiku and senryū hidden in your neighbourhood. Because, as you know, we've a submission window coming up from the 1st to the 15th of February for freestyle haiku and senryū. Truly anything goes, so you don't have to write urban haiku. Just remember that your poems should fit neatly into one of those two forms, a haiku or a senryū. And if you're thinking at this point, oh, crumbs, I've missed it, don't worry. There's usually something going on at Poetry Pea. Check the submissions diary on the website, and if you're on our mailing list, you'll be the first to hear about spontaneous call-outs and other poetic mischief that we might get up to this year. So yes, lots of reasons why you should sign up for the newsletter. As I said, nip over to the website and do that. But also come back next week for more poetry. Until then, keep noticing, maybe keep your haiku urban, but most importantly, keep writing. And don't forget to check the website for all today's links. Ciao.